I just graduated college, and after 4 years of cramming textbooks and chasing deadlines, I needed to get away. Not just a weekend trip. Something real, something raw. So I packed a backpack, grabbed a few disposable cameras, those old school ones you'd find at a gas station, and headed north to the Minnesota wilderness. Miles of towering pines, glassy lakes, and not a soul in sight. That was the plan. Just me and nature. No phone, no people, no noise except the wind. I'd always loved the idea of being alone out there, proving I could handle it. The first couple of days felt like a victory. I'd hike until my legs burned, set up my little tent by some forgotten lake, and snap photos of the sunset bleeding red across the sky. Freedom tasted like sweat and pine needles, and I was drunk on it. Sure, it got lonely sometimes, staring at the fire, hearing nothing but my own breathing. But I told myself that was the point. I was strong enough for this. At least, that's what I thought. But even then, there were moments that felt off. The forest was too quiet sometimes, like it was holding its breath. I'd catch myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone standing between the trees. It was stupid. I'd laugh it off. Too much time alone, right? My imagination was just playing tricks. I'd shake my head, focus on the next shot through my camera lens, and keep moving. I didn't want to admit that the silence was starting to feel heavy, like it was pressing down on me. By the third night, that feeling I'd been ignoring started to grow teeth. I'd pitched my tent in a small clearing, surrounded by pines so tall they swallowed the moonlight. It was peaceful, or it should have been. I'd spent the day hiking, my boots crunching through dead leaves, snapping pictures of a deer I'd spooked near the water. I was exhausted, ready to crash. But as I sat by my pitiful little campfire, the flames barely strong enough to warm my hands, I heard it, a snap, sharp and deliberate, somewhere out in the dark. My head jerked up, eyes straining past the firelight. Probably a deer, I told myself, or a raccoon. Forests are full of noises, and I wasn't some city kid jumping at shadows. Still, my heart gave a quick thud, and I held my breath, waiting for it to happen again. It did. Another snap, then a rustle, further off this time. I grabbed my flashlight, swept it across the trees, nothing but swaying branches and endless black. Get a grip? I muttered under my breath. I wasn't scared, not really, just annoyed at myself for letting it get to me. I climbed into my tent, zipped it shut, and burrowed into my sleeping bag. But sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of a tree, every whisper of wind against the nylon made me tense up. I kept picturing something circling the clearing, just out of sight. It was ridiculous. I knew that. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more I felt it, eyes on me, cold and unblinking. I turned on my side, squeezed my eyes shut, and forced myself to breathe slow. It's just the woods, I thought. Just the woods. I made it through the week, 7 days of hiking, camping, and pretending I wasn't rattled. When I got home, I couldn't wait to see those photos. I dropped the film off at a drugstore in town, one of those places that still had a creaky old developing machine in the back. A day later, I picked them up and spread them out on my coffee table. The first few were exactly what I'd expected. Golden sunlight on the lake, a hawk soaring over the treetops, my muddy boots by the tent. I smiled, proud of myself. Then I flipped to the middle of the roll and my stomach dropped. 2 pictures, back to back. Me inside my tent, asleep in my sleeping bag. My face slack, mouth half open, lit by the faint glow of my flashlight propped nearby. The angle was high, like someone had stood over me, aiming down. My hands shook as I held the photos closer, searching for some explanation. I lived alone. I'd told no one where I was going. I'd been miles from any trailhead, any road. There was no way, someone could have been there. But there I was, captured like some animal in a trap, defenseless and unaware. My chest tightened, breath hitching. I flipped through the rest of the stack, frantic, but those were the only ones. Just 2, slipped in among the nature shots like a sick joke. I sank onto the couch, staring at them. Had I missed something out there? A shadow I'd dismissed, a sound I'd ignored? My mind raced back to that third night. The snaps, the rustles, that suffocating feeling of being watched. It wasn't my imagination. Someone had been there, close enough to unzip my tent, stand over me, press the shutter, and I'd slept through it. Bile rose in my throat. Who were they? What did they want? Were they still out there? Or worse, had they followed me back? I threw out my tent, my sleeping bag, every piece of gear from that trip. I told myself I was done with camping, done with the woods. But it didn't help. Those photos burned into my head, and the fear they brought wouldn't let go. I started sleeping with my bedroom door open, the hallway light on, curtains yanked tight over the windows. I couldn't stand the thought of being closed in, blind to what might be outside or inside. Every night, I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that never came easy. My ears strained for any sound, a creak, a tap, anything that didn't belong. Sometimes I'd swear I heard it. Soft footsteps padding down the hall, stopping just out of sight. I'd bolt upright, heart hammering, and check every room. Nothing. Always nothing. But that didn't stop the dread from sinking deeper. Whoever took those pictures knew where I'd been. They'd seen me at my most vulnerable, and I had no idea who they were or why they'd done it. Were they still watching? Hiding in the trees back there? Or closer, down the street, behind my locked door? I stopped going out after dark. I stopped trusting the quiet. The worst part wasn't even the photos anymore. It was the question they left behind, gnawing at me. What else had they done while I slept? What else did they take that I'll never know about? I don't think I'll ever feel safe again. Not really. I was 15, a wiry kid from Houston, Texas, thrown into the Boy Scouts because my parents thought it'd toughen me up. I wasn't the outdoorsy type, give me a couch and a video game any day. But here I was, halfway through a high-adventure trip in the Colorado mountains. We'd flown into Denver, piled into a van, and driven 45 minutes to Camp Alexander, a rugged sprawl of pine and rock hugging the Arkansas River. 4 days in, I was beat. Mountain climbs, whitewater rafting. It was thrilling, sure, but it drained me dry. That night, we pitched our tents by the riverbank, the water's steady rush a constant hum in my ears. I crawled into my sleeping bag, already dreading another sweaty, restless night. The air smelled sharp, pine sap and wet earth, and the sky above was a mess of stars, too bright, too close. I didn't like how big it all felt. Back home, I had walls, a ceiling, limits I could control. Out here, it was just nothing. Endless nothing. I told myself I'd get used to it. 4 days down, a few more to go. I could handle it, but deep down, I wasn't so sure. Something about this place, the way the shadows stretched too long, the way the wind seemed to whisper, made my skin prickle. I shook it off. Just tired, I thought. That's all. Sleep never came easy in that damn sleeping bag. It clung to me, too tight, too hot, like a second skin I couldn't peel off. That night was the worst yet. I woke up choking on my own breath, my face slick with sweat, maybe drool, I couldn't tell. My watch glowed faintly, 3:45 a.m. The tent felt like an oven, the air thick and suffocating. I lay there for a minute, staring at the nylon ceiling, my heart thudding for no reason. I needed out. Fresh air, cold air, something to snap me out of this haze. I fumbled for my shirt and shorts, my hands clumsy in the dark. The zipper rasped as I opened the tent flap, and I stepped into the night. The chill hit me hard, slicing through the damp heat clinging to my skin. I exhaled, watching my breath puff into the air, and tried to steady myself. The river was right there, a black ribbon cutting through the campsite, its surface glinting under a sliver of moon. I should have felt relieved, alone, free, away from the snoring lumps in the other tents, but I didn't. Something was off. I couldn't place it, but it gnawed at me, a quiet itch I couldn't scratch. I stood there, barefoot on the damp ground, letting the cold seep into my toes. My eyes adjusted to the dark, picking out shapes, the jagged line of trees, the humped outlines of tents, the shimmer of the river. That's when I saw it. A figure, right in the middle of the Arkansas, standing still as stone. The water reached their waist, dark and churning, cold enough to numb you in seconds. I'd felt it during rafting. No shirt, no movement, just a bare silhouette facing downstream, arms limp at their sides. My first thought was, what the hell? Who'd wade out there at this hour? A counselor maybe, checking something? But no, they weren't moving, weren't working, just standing. My chest tightened. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. The moonlight caught their shoulders, pale and ghostly, and for a second, I thought they weren't real, like a trick of the light, a shadow cast wrong. But then the water rippled around them, slow and deliberate, and I knew. This was no illusion. Someone was out there in that freezing current at 4 a.m. My mind scrambled. Lost hiker? Drunk camper? Worse? I didn't want to know, but I couldn't look away. I don't know why I didn't run back inside. Maybe it was the sleep-deprived fog or some dumb scout instinct to assess the situation. I took a shaky breath and called out, my voice cracking in the quiet. Hey, you okay out there? Nothing, just the river's low murmur. I tried again, louder, desperation creeping in. Hey, what are you doing? This time, the figure moved, slow, mechanical, like a wind-up toy jerking to life. Their head turned, and those eyes, blank, white, catching the moonlight, locked onto me. My stomach dropped. Then they yelled, a raw, panicked shout that split the night. They thrashed toward the shore, water splashing wildly, and as they got closer, I saw it. My friend. One of the guys from my troop, soaked and shivering, his face twisted in terror. I grabbed a towel and a spare shirt from my tent, stammering, "What the hell were you doing out there?" He gasped, teeth chattering, and said he didn't know. He'd just woken up, right then, standing in the river when I yelled. No memory of getting up, walking out, nothing. My knees went weak. If I hadn't woken up, hadn't seen him, what then? We stumbled back to my tent, him dripping and shaking, me clutching the towel like it'd protect us. He kept muttering, "I don't get it, I don't get it," his voice small and lost. I didn't get it either. He wasn't a sleepwalker, never had been, he swore it. So how? How does a kid go from snoring in his tent to standing chest deep in a river that could have killed him? My brain spun, grasping for answers. Prank, seizure, something logical, but nothing fit. All I could see was that image, him out there, still as death, like he'd been placed there. Morning came slow. We told the others, but they laughed it off, called us liars, said we'd made it up for attention. He didn't argue, just stared at the ground, pale and quiet. I wanted to forget it too, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him in that water, saw those empty eyes turn to me. What if I'd slept through it? Would he have drifted away, swallowed by the current? And if it wasn't him sleepwalking, if something else had lured him out there, what was it? The river kept flowing, calm and cruel, and I wondered if it was still watching us, waiting for another chance. You have experienced a different life, a phenomenon that you cannot explain. Why? If so, share your story in the comments section below, because someone out there has also experienced the same thing. Don't be afraid to like the video, subscribe to the channel, because the next story could be even more interesting. Share your story. It was one of those summer nights at camp where sleep just wouldn't come. The air inside the old wooden cabin felt thick, heavy with the smell of pine and damp earth. Outside, crickets hummed their endless tune, but inside it was all snores and the occasional creak of a cot as someone shifted in their sleep. I lay there, flat on my back, staring up at the ceiling beams. The full moon was out, bright as a spotlight, pouring silver light through every window. It should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. My body ached from the day's hikes, yet my brain buzzed like a live wire, refusing to shut off. I rolled onto my side, then back again, the thin mattress squeaking under me. Everyone else was out cold. Lucky them. Me, I was stuck, wide awake, trapped in my own head. I sighed, rubbing my hands over my face. Maybe it was the newness of this place, my first summer away from home, or maybe it was just bad luck. Either way, I felt off, like the night itself was pressing down on me. After what felt like hours, I gave up. I sat up, knees pulled to my chest, and wiped the sweat from my forehead. The moonlight was so strong I didn't even need a flashlight, just pure, cold glow flooding the room. I glanced around, counting the sleeping shapes of the other kids, their blankets rising and falling. That's when I noticed it. The window straight across from me, the one by the far wall, wasn't glowing anymore. Something was blocking it. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't a branch or a trick of the light. It was a head. A person's head, dark against the pale shine, just sitting there. I blinked hard, thinking my tired eyes were messing with me, but it didn't go away. It was real. I squinted, heart picking up speed. It looked like an older woman, her outline sharp, a weird red cap perched on her head. Who the hell was that? A counselor doing rounds? Some creepy local wandering the grounds? My mind spun excuses, but then I saw her eyes, two pale dots locked right on me. A chill stabbed through my chest. She wasn't just standing there. She was watching me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe right. Those eyes pinned me to the cot like a bug under glass. I yanked the blanket up, flipping onto my side so fast the bed groaned. My heart hammered against my ribs, loud enough I swore she could hear it too. I told myself to calm down. Maybe she'd leave, maybe it was nothing. Kids hide under blankets all the time, right? It's instinct when you're scared. But I wasn't a baby anymore, and this felt different. Worse. I stayed there, curled up, counting my breaths, 1, 2, 3, waiting for it to pass. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know if she was gone. I peeked out, just a sliver of my eyes over the edge of the blanket. The far window was clear again, moonlight streaming back in. Relief hit me hard, and I let out a shaky laugh. Then I looked up. Right above my cot, not 3 feet from my face, she was there. The same woman, same red cap, staring down through the glass. Her face was closer now, wrinkled, pale, those eyes glowing white under the moon. I choked on a scream, yanking the blanket back over my head, my whole body shaking. She'd moved. She'd followed me. How? Why? My mind raced, tripping over itself. Was she real? Was I dreaming? But the cold sinking into my bones felt too sharp, too alive. I don't know how long I stayed like that, trembling under the covers. Minutes? Hours? At some point, exhaustion took over, dragging me into a fitful sleep. When I woke up, sunlight was spilling through the cabin, warm and golden, like the night had never happened. The other kids were already up, laughing, shoving each other as they grabbed their stuff for breakfast. I sat there, blinking, my mouth dry. It felt unreal, like a nightmare I could shake off. But the weight in my chest wouldn't lift. I had to tell someone. I stumbled out of bed, still in my pajamas, and ran to the main office where the adults hung out. They were sipping coffee, chatting about the day's schedule, when I burst in, words tumbling out, about the woman, the red cap, the way she stared. They went quiet. One of them, a guy with a scruffy beard, set his mug down slow. The 2 women next to him swapped a look, long, heavy, like I'd said something wrong. "That sounds like her," one of them muttered, her voice low. "Like who?" I asked, my stomach twisting. "An old worker here," the guy said, hesitating. "She used to wear a red cap, died years ago." My knees went weak. I wanted to laugh it off, call them crazy, but their faces, pale, uneasy, stopped me cold. They weren't joking. I didn't say much after that. Just nodded, mumbled something about breakfast, and walked out. The rest of the day blurred by. Games, campfire songs, all the normal camp stuff. But I wasn't there, not really. My head kept replaying it. Her face, those eyes, the way she'd moved without a sound. Was she a ghost? Some weirdo sneaking around? Or just my brain screwing with me after too many late nights? I wanted answers, but part of me didn't. Knowing might be worse. That night, I slept with the blanket over my head again, even though the moon was hidden by clouds. Every creak of the cabin, every rustle outside, made me flinch. I left camp a few days later, glad to be done with it, but she didn't leave me. Years on, when the moon's full and bright, I still feel it, those eyes, watching from somewhere I can't see. I don't talk about it much. People would think I'm nuts, or they'd ask questions I can't answer. Was she real? Was she dead? Was she waiting for me? I don't know. But I do know this. That summer, something found me in the dark, and I'll never feel safe under moonlight again. In 2020, when the world shut down, I decided to run. Not from the virus. Everyone else was locked in their homes, scared of that, but from my own mess. A year earlier, I'd screwed up at work. Badly. People lost money, a lot of it, because of me. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with hate, texts, calls, threats from numbers I didn't know. "You'll pay for this," one said. "I know where you live," said another. I moved apartments, changed my number, quit my job. But the guilt? That stuck around, gnawing at me every night. I'd lie awake, wondering if I'd ever outrun it. I needed to get away. Far away. Somewhere quiet where no one could find me. That's when I decided to hit the road, chasing the solitude of America's national parks. I threw my camping gear into my beat-up truck and drove 3 hours west to a national park cradled by mountains. The radio crackled with news of lockdowns, but I turned it off. I didn't want to hear it. I just wanted silence. When I got there, I parked near a trailhead and started hiking toward a creek I'd read about online. The place was empty. No cars, no people. Just me, the snow-dusted pines, and a thin layer of frost crunching under my boots. It felt good at first, like I'd finally left everything behind. But as the trees closed in, I couldn't shake this nagging thought. What if they still find me? I kept walking, my breath fogging in the cold air, telling myself this was my reset, my chance to breathe again. By the time I reached the creek, the sun was dipping low. The water wasn't frozen. It flowed steady and clear, cutting through the stillness. I found a spot off the trail, pitched my tent, and started a fire. The crackle of the wood, the smell of smoke, it was exactly what I needed. I cooked some sausages, ate alone, and pulled out a book I'd been carrying for months but never opened. Under my headlamp, I read a few pages, letting the words pull me away from the past. For a moment, I felt, okay, like maybe I could start over out here, but deep down, I didn't believe it. I kept glancing at the shadows, half expecting something to step out. The quiet was too perfect, too fragile. I should have known it wouldn't last. Night fell fast, swallowing the forest. I rolled a joint to unwind, letting the smoke curl into the dark. That's when my phone buzzed. I didn't get texts often, barely anyone had my new number, so I fished it out of my jacket, curious. Unknown number, East Coast area code. How's camping, buddy? It read. I frowned. Could be family, I thought, someone checking in. Then another buzz. It's beautiful out here. My stomach twisted. Another. I see why you came up here. My heart slammed against my ribs. This wasn't a guess. They knew where I was. How? I typed back, "Who is this?" and hit send, my hands shaking. No reply. I sat there, staring at the screen, the high creeping in. My mind raced. Old enemies, coworkers I'd burned, random strangers who'd tracked me down. The fire flickered, but it didn't feel warm anymore. The weed hit hard, and with it came the paranoia. I stood up, spinning in a full circle, scanning the woods. Nothing but trees and darkness stretching out forever. My headlamp barely cut through it. I stumbled to my bag, grabbed my pistol, a small thing I'd bought after the threat started, and clutched it tight. Usually, I'd douse the fire before bed, but not tonight. The idea of total darkness terrified me more than whatever was out there. I crawled into the tent, sprawled on my sleeping bag, and stared at my phone. Still no reply. Minutes dragged on, each one heavier than the last. I tried reading again, but the words blurred. My mind was stuck on those texts, replaying them like a broken record. I told myself it was a prank, a coincidence, but I didn't believe it. I felt exposed, like eyes were boring into me from every shadow. The fire outside was dying, its glow fading to a dull orange. I'd switched to watching YouTube, some murder documentary, dumb choice given the mood, when the silence shattered. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching through the snow. They got closer, 10 feet, maybe 6, then stopped. My grip on the gun tightened, my thumb hovering over the safety. A flash lit up the tent, sharp and quick, like a camera or a flashlight. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I had to. A photo loaded. My tent, shot from outside, the fire's faint light casting my silhouette against the fabric. Then a text. Have a good night's sleep. Panic exploded in my chest, but something else kicked in too. Anger, adrenaline, a raw need to fight back. I ripped the tent open, stood up, and fired 2 shots into the sky. The blasts echoed, and I heard it, footsteps running, fading into the distance. I screamed after them, "Stay the hell away!" My voice cracked, but I didn't care. I ducked back into the tent, slamming the zipper shut. No more texts, no more sounds, just the wind and my own ragged breathing. I sat there, gun still in hand, waiting for something, anything to happen. Hours passed, maybe more. The high was gone, burned out by fear and that rush of defiance. I didn't sleep, couldn't. My mind churned. Who was it? One of the people I'd ruined? Someone who'd followed me all this way? How did they know? The questions looped, endless and unanswered. When morning finally broke, sunlight spilling through the trees, I felt a hollow relief. I packed up fast, left the creek behind, and swore I'd never camp alone again. 5 years later, no one's bothered me since. Maybe the gun scared them off. Maybe they're still out there waiting. I don't know. But that night out in those woods, I learned something. You can run from your mistakes, but you can't hide. Not forever. I was 15, proud to be out with the scouts, proving I could handle myself in the wild. My buddy was supposed to share the tent with me, but he bailed at the last minute, leaving me to face the forest alone. The sun dipped below the horizon faster than I'd expected, painting the trees in shades of orange and gray. I fumbled with the tent poles, my hands shaky from the cold and something else, a gnawing sense of being too small in this endless stretch of woods. The other scouts were busy with their own setups, their laughter echoing faintly through the pines. Someone finally wandered over to help me, a quick nod and a few pulls on the ropes, but then he was gone, and it was just me again. I told myself it was fine, more space, more freedom. But as the last light faded, the forest felt less like an adventure and more like a cage. After dinner, we gathered around the campfire, swapping ghost stories like every scout campout I'd ever been to. The tales were cheesy, headless campers, vengeful spirits, but they stuck in my head as I crawled into my tent. I stretched out, trying to enjoy the extra room, convincing myself I didn't mind being alone. Sleep came fast, heavy from the day's hike, but it didn't last. I jolted awake to a sound, thumping footsteps circling my tent, slow and deliberate. My first thought was the guys messing with me, a classic prank to spook the newbie. I smirked, ready to call them out, but then I remembered. Our scoutmasters made us pitch our tents far apart, a test of grit. The nearest kid was a good shout away. The steps kept going, round and round, and that smirk faded. I wasn't sure anymore. Was it them or something else? My chest tightened, but I stayed quiet, listening, waiting. The footsteps stopped for a bit, and I tried to shake it off, curling deeper into my sleeping bag. It's just a deer, I told myself, or maybe a raccoon sniffing around. I'd almost drifted off when it started again, louder, closer, stomping like it wanted me to hear. My blood boiled. I was done with this game. "Who's out there?" I yelled, my voice cracking more than I'd admit. The steps didn't pause. They bolted, crashing off into the woods. I sat there, heart pounding, half tempted to chase after them, prove I wasn't scared. But something held me back, a chill that wasn't just the night air. I lay down, eyes wide, praying it was over. Then it came back, those damn steps circling again, taunting me. I couldn't take it anymore. Anger overpowered the fear, and I ripped the tent zipper open, ready to face whatever punk was out there. I stumbled out into the night, breath fogging in the cold, expecting to see one of the scouts grinning like an idiot. But it wasn't a kid. It was a man, tall, maybe 6'5", looming just beyond the tent's shadow. His face caught the moonlight, pale and sharp, with a smile that twisted my stomach into knots. He didn't say a word, just stood there, staring, then raised a finger to his lips like we were sharing some sick secret. My mind blanked. This wasn't a prank. This was wrong. So wrong. My legs screamed to run, but they wouldn't move at first, locked by the weight of his eyes. Then he tilted his head, and that snapped me out of it. I spun around, sprinting toward the scoutmaster's tent, screaming until my throat burned. They burst out, rifles in hand, charging back to my spot. He was gone when they got there, swallowed by the trees, but his footprints stayed, big, deep, circling my tent like a promise he'd be back. The scoutmasters didn't waste time. They made us drag our tents together, piling them so close I could hear the others breathing. We didn't sleep much after that, just sat there, eyes darting to every rustle in the dark. Morning came, and they called it quits, packing us up and shipping us home. Nobody talked about it on the ride back, but I could feel their stares, wondering what I'd seen. I shoved my gear into the garage when I got home, swearing I'd never camp again. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Every night, when the house goes quiet, I hear those footsteps, slow, steady, circling. I keep the lights off, the curtains shut, like that'll stop him from finding me. I don't know who he was or why he picked me. Maybe he's still out there, waiting in some forest, smiling that awful smile. Maybe he's closer than that. And that thought, it's why I can't close my eyes without checking the shadows first. I was 13 in the fall of 2008, a scrawny kid in a Boy Scout troop I never really fit into. The other boys were loud, always joking, wrestling, swapping stories about girls or sports I didn't care about. Me? I stayed quiet, trailing behind on hikes, my boots scuffing the dirt while they charged ahead. That October, we were on our last campout of the season, somewhere in the Midwest. Don't ask me where. I can't remember the name. The air had that crisp, leafy smell, and the trees were shedding gold and red all over the trails. I liked the cold. It made the endless walking bearable. But even then, I felt out of place, like I was just waiting for it all to be over so I could go home and curl up with a book. That day, I kept my head down, my hands stuffed in my jacket pockets. I didn't talk much, never did, and the Scoutmasters didn't push me. They probably figured I was shy, which wasn't wrong. But it was more than that. I didn't trust people easily, not after years of being the odd one out. Out here, though, with the woods stretching endless around us, I thought maybe I could breathe a little easier. Maybe the quiet would feel less heavy. I was wrong. The hike that afternoon started like any other. The troop marched single file through the forest, the Scoutmasters up front barking orders, their voices off the trees. I hung back, as usual, watching the shadows stretch longer as the sun dipped toward the horizon. My legs ached, but I didn't mind the burn. It kept my mind off how alone I felt. Then it hit me. I had to pee. Bad. I let the group pull ahead, their chatter fading into the distance, and ducked behind a gnarled oak tree, its bark rough against my hand as I steadied myself. I was midstream when it happened. A heavy thud landed somewhere nearby, maybe 20 feet off. Not a twig snapping or a branch falling, but something solid, deliberate, like a boot slamming into the leaf-strewn ground. My breath caught, and I froze, eyes darting through the trees. Nothing. Just the dim outlines of trunks and the rustle of dying leaves. My heart kicked up, thudding against my ribs. "It's just a deer," I whispered to myself, voice barely audible. But my hands shook as I zipped up, and that feeling, like someone was staring right through me, clamped down on my chest. I bolted back to the trail, sprinting to catch the group, my sneakers pounding the dirt. I didn't look back. Couldn't. What if something was there? Night came fast, the kind of dark that swallows everything. We'd set up camp in a clearing, tents in a loose circle, a fire pit the Scoutmasters wouldn't let us light yet. Most of the boys paired up, but I had my own tent, a small green thing I'd pitched a few yards from the others. I didn't mind being alone. It was better than faking small talk. I crawled inside as soon as we stopped, zipping the flap shut, and sprawled out on my sleeping bag. The cold seeped through the nylon floor, but I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep, to shut out the day and that weird thud still echoing in my head. I pulled my hoodie tight around my face, closed my eyes, and tried to focus on the quiet. It worked for a minute. The forest was still, just the faint hum of crickets outside. Then it started, a low, raspy sound, like someone breathing through a bad cold. My eyes snapped open. It wasn't coming from outside. It was closer, inside the tent, right by my head. I sat up, fumbling in the dark, my fingers brushing my backpack. The noise got louder, mechanical now, like static from a cheap radio. I dug into the bag, heart racing, and yanked out something heavy and cold, a walkie-talkie. I didn't own one. I hadn't packed it. I stared at the walkie-talkie, its black plastic glinting faintly in the moonlight leaking through the tent. My thumb hovered over the button, trembling. Then it crackled, and a voice broke through, deep, muffled, like it was coming from underwater. "I'm watching you, kid." My stomach dropped. I pressed the talk button, my voice shaking as I stammered. "Who is this?" Static hissed back, loud and sharp, then silence. I waited, barely breathing, the device clutched in my sweaty hands. Another crackle. "I'm right outside your tent." Before I could process it, the tent wall buckled, something pressed hard against the fabric, inches from my face. I saw it through the thin nylon, the outline of a hand, big and rough, pushing in. My scream ripped out, high and broken, like a little kid's. The pressure vanished and I heard it. Footsteps, fast and heavy, crunching through the leaves, fading into the woods. I sat there, chest heaving, tears stinging my eyes, too scared to move. That voice, it wasn't one of the boys. It was too deep, too real. Someone was out there, someone who'd been watching me. The Scoutmasters burst in minutes later, their flashlight beams slashing through the dark. "What's wrong?" one barked, his voice gruff but tight with worry. I could barely speak, my throat raw from screaming. I shoved the walkie-talkie at them, babbling about the voice, the hand, the footsteps. They traded looks, skeptical at first, like they thought I'd dreamed it. "Probably just the guys messing with you," one said, but I shook my head hard. It wasn't them. The voice, it wasn't a kid. My insistence made them pause, and their faces shifted, unease creeping in. They dragged us all out of our tents, made us huddle together while they searched the perimeter. I stayed close to the adults, my hoodie pulled up, avoiding the other boys' stares. Some snickered, whispering, "Crybaby," but I didn't care. I was still shaking, replaying that voice in my head. "I'm watching you, kid." How long had he been out there? Had he followed us from the trail? The scoutmasters came back empty-handed, but they didn't let us sleep alone after that. They paired me with two other boys, their sleeping bags crammed next to mine. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, eyes locked on the tent flap, waiting for that hand to push in again. The next morning, we packed up fast and moved to another campsite, one near a bigger troop. No one talked about the walkie-talkie. Someone took it, I don't know who. I didn't ask. I just wanted out. When we got back to town, I begged my parents to let me quit Scouts. They didn't argue. They saw my face, pale and hollow, and knew something had broken in me. That was my last campout, my last night in the woods. You have experienced a different life, a phenomenon that you cannot explain. Why? If so, share your story in the comments section below, because someone out there has also experienced the same thing. Don't be afraid to like the video, subscribe to the channel, because the next story could be even more interesting. Share your story.